Sam Seder on the majority report. Emma Vigeland out today, although she's on her honeymoon. But guess what? She's going to interrupt because she's very happy. Joining us, returning to the program, Dave Weigel, national political affairs correspondent for Semafor. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm not a big titles guy, as long as people pronounce my name correctly, which is way harder, which you do.
Okay, so Mr. Dave Weigel, ladies and gentlemen. So Dave, I mean, we were just talking just briefly beforehand about how it is much harder, at least for some of the press, to surprise the press in the wake of the distant wake of AOC's victory. That when you see like a Democratic primary and a progressive challenger, a lot of people, get in there to do interviews, so these don't come out of the blue. At the same time, that's got to be true for the person they're running against. And what makes this win by Mamdani so shocking is the size of it. Mm-hmm. Tell us about those expectations.
Yeah, when I was in the city, I left before the election, but I was there, covered all the candidates. Cuomo was the hardest to cover, which is part of the story. He didn't really do a lot of campaigning. People were optimistic, but the hope was that Mamdani would end, if you were Mamdani campaign, you would end election night maybe tied with Cuomo, maybe Cuomo's up one, maybe you're up one, and it can't really be settled until the ranked choice count. And I feel like I can't in live broadcast explain ranked choice again, but I feel like everyone gets it now. Actually, they're pretty good Mamdani videos explaining it, where he uses different sorts of foods. But anyway, that was the expectation, was okay, he has a path to victory, but no one was saying Cuomo will concede on election night that he can't win the primary. And if you look at the polling, it wasn't all wrong it was all wrong in the same way. There was one poll by public policy polling that was pretty good, but the rest had Cuomo locked in at around 35, 6, 7%. And then it had Mamdani behind him with a scattering of votes for these other candidates, a lot of whom said, rank me somewhere on your Zoran ballot, or rank Zoran somewhere on your ballot for me, right? If you're Brad Lander, this is the main character in that whole thing. I'm co-endorsing Zoran. If you're voting for me, rank Zoran second. So their vote collapsed. Lander is the least of all, but Adriana, people who were polling at 8% suddenly got in at 3 or 4. All that vote went to Mamdani, and there was a lot happening here from neighborhood to neighborhood. Some of this was just Cuomo was the least popular candidate in the race. He was the front runner, but he had the highest negatives. And Mamdani consolidating support when people said, yeah, I'm going to vote for him, and then also for one of the other not Cuomos. I'm not going to rank Cuomo on my ballot. One, that made it very clear that Cuomo couldn't continue. Two, that created this surge for Mamdani, where he's ending up with more votes than anyone's won in Democratic primary as a winner since, I think, 1989, before he was born, when David Dinkins was running against Ed Koch. And that is not what even the most optimistic Mamdani supporters, DSA, did not think that would happen. This is they were blowing out turnout, and they're in all these neighborhoods, and other real New Yorkers can name them better than I can, but neighborhoods where they said, if we can draw even in this area, or maybe Cuomo's going to win that because that's a terrible place for progressives. We never win there. Just was winning or drawing even in all kinds of places that they did not think they would compete in.
Well, isn't that the story? I mean, like the polls, it seems to me, were off because they had just no way of modeling what the turnout was going to be. Although, to be fair, it was PPP actually did get it pretty correct, at least somewhat. But those down ballot, I don't know how else to say them, the ones who got the other candidates who got in the lower single digits, seems to me that what happened there was that internally they may have hit their vote totals that they had anticipated. It's just that there was a 20 to 25% greater electorate than they had imagined it would be.
Yeah, and Cuomo got this wrong, too, because he expected, I compared this in one of the pieces I wrote before the election to, if Jeb Bush's campaign 10 years ago thought Donald Trump is great for us because this is going to be a tough race. We're Jeb Bush. Not everyone loves the Bush family anymore, but obviously Trump is so unacceptable. If we get one-on-one with Trump, we'll beat him. And a lot of people thought that. And that was wrong. Mamdani just had broader appeal than Cuomo's campaign thought it would. That's what I was getting into with the vote count. And the campaigning really did matter. And I was there, not the peak of the Israel discourse, but right after, where Mamdani refused to say, for example, that he supported the existence of Israel as a Jewish state as opposed to a democratic state for everybody. Where Bibi Netanyahu gets to be prime minister, but they're going to have to change some laws. Nothing he's going to do that. He defended saying if Netanyahu came to America, he would arrest him and give him to the International Criminal Court. He defended, not defended, I want to get it right, because a lot of people who don't like him are just calling him an anti-Semite, which is not true. But Mamdani was, when he asked to condemn, globalize the Intifada, saying, well, Intifada means resistance. I'm not going to fully hit it. All these things, a lot of Cuomo people and a lot of Democrats said, well, that's going to be disqualifying, right? And they just weren't disqualifying, because him running as a progressive who is going to raise taxes on the rich, to make transportation free, childcare free, at least to try that stuff, that was very popular. And that actually knitted together both progressives and a lot of, let's say, normal liberals. Not that progressives aren't normal, but you know what I mean? Just people who were like Elizabeth Warren tote bag people, Biden voters, who said, and Mamdani told me this, like they look at Trump and say, how come he gets to run and promise things he can't deliver and excite the working class, and we don't? Why don't we promise big things to get people excited? Even if you try it and you only get half of it, why not try? And that he was the one candidate doing that for most of the race. Everyone else was coming up with something that you could get it vetted by Center for Responsible Federal Budget, or it wouldn't worry people. You wouldn't get a quote in the third paragraph of New York Times story from Partnership for New York saying this wouldn't work. Him just going in saying, no, I'm progressive, things should cost less, we should tax the rich, was so simple, not simplistic, but simple, that it built a bigger coalition. And a lot of people who maybe even 20 years ago might have cared more about what his position on Israel was, just they didn't, that wasn't their issue. I mean, Mamdani won people who clearly disagree with him on that and just said, yeah, I'm not electing Secretary of State, I'm electing a mayor.
Did you do you have any sources around the whole Late Show Stephen Colbert thing? There's some controversy about that question. And right. I have my own little pet theory about it, but just having some predisposition to who Stephen Colbert is. But do you have any sense from the campaign? I don't know if you've had any sources, you've talked to anybody about that, because that was handled very, very well, and it seems to me that that was the most opportune thing for Mamdani to be sitting next to Brad Lander, the highest ranking Jewish elected official in New York City. I mean, there's a permission structure there, right?
No, there is. And let's, I was hesitating how much of the entire history of this should we get into in this segment, but I say 20 years ago, because there was a time, especially during like the second Intifada, where not supporting Israel to the hilt for a lot of people meant not supporting a country that could be destroyed. And for a lot of people who only know Israel since then, Netanyahu being prime minister for all but a couple of years, since 2009, you're looking at Israel dominating of the airspace and destroying Iran's military capacity. You are looking at colleges. I should say this Trump administration getting colleges to deport people because they criticize Israel. I'm not trying to get into every single voter psychology, but it's just a very different landscape. And yes, there are a lot of progressive Jewish people who say, well, I would love, yes, Israel should exist. I am a Zionist, although that word becomes harder for some people to say. But as a Zionist, I don't support 100% of this. That's become a very comfortable position for a lot of progressive Jewish voters and a lot of people like Lander. And I saw that. I spent a little bit of time covering Lander as he campaigned, and that was the kind of vote he was getting. A lot of those voters they're not about the demand the end of Israel. They just said, maybe we can back up a little, maybe we can put some pressure on Netanyahu. It was more complicated than saying you are not saying the right things about Israel. You're making Jewish people feel unsafe. It just didn't play out the way that people thought it might, making that attack. And the way Mamdani handled it, I mentioned this before, but the way that he dealt with the question of does Israel have a right to exist as a Jewish state? he was so nimble in saying it. He believes it should be a democratic state. That he doesn't believe in any state being a religious state. You can get into an argument, and this often happens. Well, what about Saudi Arabia? What about this country that has a state religion? But people hadn't seen a Democrat try that. They usually get away from the question because it's an uncomfortable question. His willingness to say, this is what I think. It's not what Netanyahu thinks. I disagree with him, but vote for me on some other issue. It was just very effective. And I'm really not even trying to make an endorsement of what is the one true correct position on this. Just him as a communicator was able to say, yeah, there's going to be any mayor, you're going to have some stuff that you hate me for, and it will not affect your life most of the time. Even I remember I interviewed one of the candidates for comptroller who didn't win. Mamdani supports BDS, which a lot of states have made illegal. And the candidate for comptroller are saying, yeah, we're not going to defund cities' investments in Israeli companies. He's not going to get all this done. It became more of a symbol of Mamdani was really fearless and could go into any interview and could defend himself. And that kept growing as a contrast with Cuomo, who was very prickly and did not do interviews, not many, didn't show up to most of the forums, showed up to 2 televised debates, and was trying to beast out all the negativity in his record and his lawsuits, etc. The Israel issue became, not for everybody, but it became for a lot of people, just evidence, this guy can go into the lion's den, he's not afraid of anything. Yeah. And the way he changed that was really powerful for the campaign.
Yeah, I agree. And let's just talk. I mean, I think we're going to get a sense in the next couple of days what Cuomo is going to do. Because on one hand, this beating was significant enough. I think that just, it seriously, I think his calculation has to be, he's savvy enough to know, he very well could get crushed in a general election. Particularly the chair of the Brooklyn Democratic Party has already come out and endorsed Mamdani, which is huge. I suspect we're going to see some other Democratic county chairs or borough chairs do this as well. And it's going to put Democrats in the state in a very tough position. It's a big risk to take to back Cuomo now, but there's also going to be a huge amount of money that's going to want to try and convince him to run. But I actually think in this instance, Cuomo is not as ambitious. He doesn't want to go and be embarrassed and lose in that general election again. So it's going to be interesting. But let's just for a moment. Yeah. What are the implications nationally? Because after Eric Adams won the mayoralty in 2022, he was being touted as a national candidate. It defined the question of crime for Democrats. It defined the question of immigration in many respects for Democrats. It became this blueprint. Obviously, a lot of those same people are not going to, are trying to make excuses about Mamdani. He's a unique candidate, this and that. True, you need to have a very good candidate. That helps. But what are the implications are going to be going forward? And particularly also on the question of Israel. He was very brave about it, but the point is the context is very different than it was 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Democrats are going to give themselves some space on this, which maybe is a funny way to put it, but you saw it today, and I was tracking for the follow-up I was writing. What are Democrats saying? How soon does Chuck Schumer endorse? Because on paper, you got a week before it's an official result, before the ranked choice vote confirms that he won. But they have praised the kind of campaign he's run, Democratic leaders. Democrats who are not in New York, not commenting very much unless they're excited by it, like Rashida Tlaib. Democrats in the suburbs who think that he will be unpopular have come out and criticized him. Laura Gillen, who represents part of Long Island and flipped a Republican seat back last year, she said, she can't support him, but her district doesn't have any New York City in it. It's Long Island. So how willing will Mamdani be to let some Democrats say, yeah, this guy's terrible, I'm not voting for him if they're not in the city? Pretty willing. In talking to him in the campaign, they were very aware that, one, there'd be Israel attacks at the end of the race, which they navigated, and two, that there'd be some Democrats who don't support him. And how much are they get? Because one thing everybody learned in this race, did it matter that Bill Clinton endorsed Cuomo? Did it matter that Mike Bloomberg did? Do you need just every Democrat to criticize him. How many days of a week are you going to have a Democrats in disarray over mayoral candidate story? But he was very aware. One thing Mamdani said to me was, people forget this, but Eric Adams said that I'm going to be the voice of the Democratic Party. He won his race in 2021 and already started saying, I'm the new voice. I'm the Biden of New York, et cetera, et cetera. And he's not doing that. Mamdani's not saying, because I won this primary, I am the alpha predator of Democratic candidates and everyone needs to listen to me. He's saying, yeah, I'm doing some stuff that worked for New York. I'm going to defend it. If you try to drag me into something way off topic, I will bring it back to affordability. So he's not going to demand that. It's not like the Republican Party and Trump, where at this point you criticize Trump and you lose a primary. They're going to be a little more flexible with the Democrat. If you need to run away from me, it's frankly something Joe Biden used to do, of say, I'll campaign for you or against you, whatever helps. And with Mamdani, they do. I've just not gotten the impression talking to the campaign, they're going to snipe at people who tweet that he sucks. If it's all right, if you want to win your race somewhere else and say I suck, go ahead.
And Lander, do you have a sense of Lander's because people are now saying challenge Goldman, but my sense is he wants to work in New York City government. But what is your what's your reporting and your sense of this?
Nothing confirmed, but yeah, Lander will be out of the comptroller job because he ran and lost this race. So people kept mentioning him as potential deputy mayor for Mamdani. There's one thing, and Bill de Blasio, I talked to you today, but before the election too. One thing a lot of people in liberal politics in New York say is, hey, Mamdani knew that people would say, what's this 33-year-old doing running for mayor? And he spent a lot of time talking to people with municipal experience. He would or wouldn't vote for him. Just let's have a meeting. Let's talk about what this job entails. How do you do this? How do you break this logjam? He knows Albany because he worked there. Lander knows New York because he's won all his races there. So that's what you heard more about Lander. And I think that will be part. So Lander hasn't said, Lander's endorsed him, obviously, and he's the Democratic nominee. But to what extent would it help Mamdani to say, yeah, and as mayor, I'm going to have somebody next to me who understands exactly how to fight Trump. Look at this record. He's beaten Trump on the $80 million he tried to take from the city. He knows how to run things efficiently, because they dealt with, there was a New York Times story about his lack of experience. And yeah, he's 33. When he's done, if he wins 2 terms, he'll be younger than at the end of that than I am now. So that's luckily I'm not a New York voter and I can't hold that against him. But they were aware there'll be people who say, but can this guy run the city? Will he get run over by Trump? Will he get run over by the police unions, et cetera? Because that's more the problem governing as progressive. You can ask de Blasio about that too. You have your agenda. Do you get minimized in Albany? Do you have the police union literally turn their backs on you and stop working? How is he going to navigate that? I think Lander will be part of that strategy, but other people who are comfortable with Mamdani will be part of that strategy too. Just validators who say not, I'm famous, vote for him because I'm famous, who say, trust me, this guy is a phenom and he will do the job effectively. They know that's a problem, and that honestly was more of a hurdle for them than the Israel issue. The Israel issue, we'll have to get all back into it, but they navigated that.
Right.
Once you said, am I ready for a 33-year-old mayor who's never run anything this big before? That's the next question that Lander helps him solve and figure an answer to.
Dave Weigel, political affairs correspondent nationally for Semafor. Folks can sign up. We'll put a link to your newsletter. It is an invaluable resource. Your reporting is always top notch. Really appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks. It's fun to talk about this. Races that surprise everybody are my favorite kind.
This one was really just wonderful. We definitely need it around these parts. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.